3, 2, 1.
Hi and welcome to Guru Canggu. Today we are recording our episode number 8 of the series The World Meet in Bali. My name is Marco Lastrucci, here Francisco Oliveira, and this is our guest for today, Jukas. Ciao Jukas.
Ciao ragazzi.
How are you?
Very good.
So, just a little bit of information about Jukas. Jukas is born and raised in Bali. After spending a little bit of time abroad, doing some experience in different fields, he come back to the island to follow his passion. And his passion is agriculture. Mm-hmm. So he become, together with some friend, part of this new movement on the island, we can call it this, about regenerative agriculture, sustainable agriculture.
That looks amazing, yeah?
That looks amazing. It looks also a lot of work.
Yeah.
And without losing more time, I give you the word to you for the
first question.
Please.
And I will say that Juka already did the movie night here, and that was an amazing movie night. Everybody was posting out in the WhatsApp group, wow, amazing movie night, and the movie was outstanding. So your participation, Eco Bali participation, your JIWA participation, all the Instagram stuff that we put it on screen, we could see already the activity you are doing regarding this particular subject. And this week is a good week because we have been in the river cleaning with all the Sungai Watch.
Yeah.
We had 20 people from here cleaning plastic and taking photos like Instagram stuff. And
That's cool.
and so we have an eco kind of thing going on. And also I'm very, very curious to understand what kind of work you are doing. You already explained during the movie night, so I think it's good to recall to the viewers what is your goal with your community. And so let's start since the beginning, yeah? So you were born in Bali. So Juka is a Bali kid. It's important to say it's the first Bali kid sitting here. So. But no, we had another one. We had Taina, yeah?
That's true. Second.
Second,
I'm
yeah?
the second.
So, let me know and let us know. How was this? What is the difference? What you feel regarding the other ones?
I guess it was a very was quite. I mean, for me to be born and raised, I didn't have a big of a perspective of what it would be to be born and raised in Italy. I didn't necessarily
You don't see the difference.
I didn't really know what exactly was that big of a difference until I realized. I've been to Italy a few times, and I was very uncomfortable in Europe. I'm comfortable in Italy, and then I noticed, I'm obviously a Westerner, full Westerner. I don't have any Indonesian blood. Born and raised in Bali, and I am not actually Indonesian. So I did realize very young that I had this kind of I don't belong, but I do belong. But I feel home here, but nobody will really accept me as an Indonesian. So that was probably the first things I had. It didn't last long because it wasn't that big of an issue for me. I mean, I didn't have this, crises of who am I. But I did remember it was quite an interesting thought at a very young age because you see that makes sense.
How old you start feeling that?
I mean, I'm
5.
Yeah, probably around 5. Or, when you first realize that, you are very different, but you feel home here and all these things.
So you were raised here by your father, mother? Or
By just my mother. So
Okay.
she was a single mother, and I was an only child. And of course, the community back then was much more compact. We were much closer. There was not that big of a, Bali was still quite small. Let's say even within the Western communities, there was, let's say, much more group, a smaller group. So yeah, it was me and my mom, and she did her best to survive in this quite uncertain world. But I think she had an awesome time raising me.
And did you went to school?
That was a big thing for me when I was a kid. I didn't like school a lot. I really had an issue with schools.
I think no kid likes school, right?
And I would come home a lot telling my mother it was destroying my life. Of course, I was being a bit over dramatic, and at some point she was like, "Okay, well then why are you going to school? Fuck school, get out of school." And I was like,
Wow.
"Sure." So when I was 9, she said, "Then yeah, just forget about it. Let's focus on what you actually want to do." And I was like, "Okay, I want to surf. I want to play music. I want to learn things. You know, I don't want to go to school." And so she took me out of school. School as a Westerner, let's say, was not cheap because I couldn't.
International school.
Yeah, I could go to a local school. I tried going to a local school. It didn't last long because I wasn't actually allowed to be in that school. And then international schools are very expensive. And she thought, man, if my kid's not gonna enjoy it, he's not gonna learn anything. If he's gonna become stupid, might as well be free, you know. It doesn't have to be expensive. And she was right. I really agreed with it. Of course, I gave her a lot of shit for it in the beginning because my kids and my friends were giving me a lot of, like, they were making fun of me. You know, I was gonna be homeless. My nickname became homeless. Like, oh, the homeless guy.
Bully.
Yeah.
Bully.
So I was getting. I wouldn't say it was bullied, but it was really. And my mom.
Now we call it bully.
My mom lost lots of friends, so that was very tough.
Wow, just because she gave you the freedom of not going to school.
I mean,
It's very unusual.
It's very unusual.
No, I think it's the. But she was homeschooling you. Or?
In the beginning, she was just making sure I was, not lazy like we were talking about before. She wouldn't let me wake up past 7. It was 7.
Out of bed. And
the very few times I didn't do that, she would cut my hair or pour water on me.
Rule number 1.
It was very brutal, but I learned very fast. Trust me, I've never woke up after 7 again.
would you study something?
That's good.
You would study.
So I would study.
Learn, write, everything.
Yeah, because beforehand I was already learning. I was
so you
able
already
to
have the base.
more or less, yeah. And I quickly got so into so many other things. I was really into boats. I was really into surfing. I was into music. I never had a day where I was bored at home. It was really not.
You were doing stuff, yeah.
Yeah, that was. I mean, we're in Bali. For me, it was like, for so much shit we can do. What's the point in just staying in school? I was so against the school idea, and that was the biggest.
That's an amazing story.
That was the revolution in my life, the first one.
And do you feel that today, just very quickly, and Marco is going to do the second question, you feel that you did a mistake today? You look back,
I cannot.
It's okay, yeah?
Every time I think that I might have gotten angry at my mom for taking me out of school, I totally am I disagree with that feeling, and I'm very happy she did that now.
So you feel that you didn't lost nothing?
I've only gained anything from leaving school, specifically the way I like to learn, I guess.
You learn your way, your rhythm, and everything comes in. Same.
I could not have picked a better way to learn, not going through school.
That is a great story just there.
Well, not regretting and be happy about that is fantastic.
I'm super thankful. I think my life would be a whole different one if I continued.
So from school to the field, when you realized that agriculture, when you first touched the agriculture topic, and you realize, oh, this is a cool thing, I can apply myself in it.
It's funny because when I was still going to school, we would go in the rice field. It was such a different school, back then you could hang out in the rice field.
The first international school.
Exactly, they were quite
Montessori oriented.
So we were learning.
Here?
It wasn't Montessori, but let's just say that type of, learning more outdoor, learning hands-on. We would go in the rice field and study about insects. We'd really get our hands dirty all the time. We always learn about compost. We learn about growing food in our primary school. Yeah, so it was quite. We learned also because our parents maybe had more. They didn't really know much about it, but they wanted us to learn. So there was this introduction, and I guess many years later, when I must have turned around 16, 15, I started understanding what everything meant around agriculture, because I realized that it's not so beautiful as we think. The rice fields in Bali are gorgeous, but what goes on behind the scenes, what it means to actually look after a rice field, everything started coming up. The more I see the chemicals, the more I see the farmers, the more I see what it means to run a farm conventionally. They spray so much chemicals. They're using so much chemicals with no protection. In fact, farmers are having an insane amount of
disease
issues with their lungs is the biggest one.
Yeah,
skin and lungs, in fact. Yes, I'm sure a lot of them smoke, but
there's probably
there's a difference between smoking
pesticides.
tobacco and breathing in that pesticide. We're talking about a different level of chemicals, and yeah, I remember seeing the first few moments where I was like, "Fuck, this is not actually as beautiful as it looks. There's much more behind this, and there's a history behind agriculture everywhere. You know, the green revolutions and all this. When I first heard about it, I was like, okay, so this is not right. Something isn't right. We're disrespecting the people that grow our food. This should not be, you know, they're feeding the whole world. There's no joke. So I must have met Norman.
That was the time that you started to study also.
I was just getting interested. I went to a few places in the mountains.
Here
One
in Bali, yeah?
in Bali. One was with Norman and Linda had this beautiful place called Saranbuana, and I was just like, fuck, this is what I want to live. This is how I want to live.
How old were you when
I was about, I honestly don't know if I was 16 or so, around 16. A few times I've been there and I remember it, but yeah, it was the moment that I started going, I want to know more. So I started bothering lots of people that I knew about permaculture. I'd go to Ubud and meet Pat Chakra and just rock up at his house and be like, hey man, I know this is not, you know, this is not how we normally do it, but I'm never going to learn any other way, and you're probably the best teacher, so I'm going to persist in learning from you. And he taught me all the ways of how, you know, he was a Balinese permaculturist, the only Balinese permaculturist.
in those days?
You know, this is maybe just over 10 years ago when I really started getting introduced to Pat Chakra. And yeah, full Balinese permaculturist. And I was mind blown. This guy was a fucking walking, legend. You know, yeah, and he showed everything because he saw my persistence, and I would never stop. And eventually, he was like, "Okay, then come with me and let's go do this, and come with me and learn."
He's still alive?
Yeah, he's around, and he's still quite young. I mean,
he's a young guy.
Yeah, he's a bit older than me, but he's not like you know, he was showing.
He's in the field still.
Yeah, and so yeah, that was about it. This is about 10 years ago.
So just to understand, so you are born here, you go to school. How old you start saying, "Mother, school is not for me"? How old?
It must have been like 7, 8, yeah.
7, 8. Then you live in Gili, yeah? You go to
and
Gili?
yeah, my mom decided. Oh, and I was like, I was 14. I was like, sure, whatever.
Wow.
Why not? So I was already on a boat at 14, delegating workers on how to make sure that this boat doesn't sink.
With
so
14.
It was a very tough job, and I remember the first time I made a mistake, the boat almost sank, and it was my fault.
At 15, you were.
Yeah, and that you know, the reminder of what it means to be responsible at 14 is so good. Yeah, like I think every kid should know that, because then you just grow a pair of responsibility balls, let's say, and understand that each decision you make actually has a consequence, and everything to get responsibility as a kid is great, because
then you don't learn really in school.
You don't learn
15, yeah, of course.
Really, not
So,
if zero.
Just to understand, so you do all this, so you try the boats and the fishing and the surfing, but the land
that
is
came
the
a bit
passion that comes up. Is it the smell that you love? Is the waking up in the morning? Is it the birds, the animals? There's something there, yeah?
The thing is, landscape for me was always like a bigger picture. It wasn't just gardening. Like, we like gardening, but I always thought, man, we have rivers, we have rain, we have ocean. It's one piece, you know. And the more we look at it as little puzzles, the more we forget that it's one fucking very epic monster of a puzzle, you know, of a combination, a holistic program, let's say,
of the planet.
Of the planet, yeah. And we are as important or detrimental to it as bacteria and viruses. Like, we're all part of this. You just zoom out, and we look as small as bacteria. You zoom in, and bacteria look as big as a plant. So it's all about the concept of what you're looking through. And when I noticed that that's how that's how landscape works, we can either benefit it or destroy it. You know, and this is, you know, when you notice that in a landscape it takes billions and billions and trillions of organisms to run this engine, and I was like, okay, that's what I want to learn. That's how I want to be part of it. I want to be part of nature. I am part of nature. Nature and me are one piece. So we learn, yeah. So that's when I first understood that this is much more complex than I was first envisioning, and I got a little more into it. So yeah. at
So,
about.
Marco,
Hey,
I'm
tell
seeing
me.
that I'm jumping some questions and going up and down, but you
No,
know,
It's okay.
aspetta. Can we ask about this project, the new
yeah, of
project?
course, man. So that's the thing.
And then you jump in and
What
out.
I will jump. Just ask the project thing. Yeah.
So at some point, all this love for environment, all your experience in different field, they came together 1 year ago. You say 1 year ago, and you with some friend, you make this new project that you call JIWA Garden.
Yeah.
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit about the focus of the JIWA Garden? What is exactly that you want to achieve with this project?
So initially, obviously, since many years I've been trying to get this community garden going in Canggu. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know with who it was going to be. I wanted to get a place where we could all get together and learn about landscape, natural environment. And, it doesn't matter if you're a businessman, if you're a scientist, if you're a farmer, a place where we can all live in, spend time in nature.
And do things.
And do things, like to have a
And
good
see
time, play
everything.
some music, have some drinks, talk about whatever you want, and be in the garden. Of course, the more you are in the garden, the more you understand the garden. The more you understand, the more you feel this connection. And it doesn't matter how old you are, you will eventually fall in love. So that was the idea. So with so many failures, I'm talking about 8 years of trying and trying and trying and trying. We tried a million different recipes, and one last time I tried and it just failed last year, and I was like, fuck, I'm tired of this shit. It's never gonna really happen. My friend calls me up, Chris, he's like, you're in Bali? I'm like, yeah, I'm in Bali. He's like, why don't you come over? I want to talk to you about composting. I was like, composting? I love composting. Let's do it. So we talked about it, and he started this composting group, like a facility called Compost Heroes in Canggu. And he was like, Juka, please help me out. I want to make it better because I'm not very good at compost. And I was like, let's do it. And he showed me this land. It was like half a hectare. And I was like, what are you going to compost in half a hectare? This is ridiculous. We could make a fucking garden. We could make whatever we want. We could make a forest. And he was like, well, why don't we do it? And I was like, okay. Because just a few days before, the last garden got cut off. And I was like, okay, it's not going to work. So then I called Lenny. Me and Lenny were talking about community garden. And this all started like out of the blue, one day to the next, compost facility and community garden, which really, it's like,
Yes.
Why would you not have those things together? And then it just never stopped. The ideas kept rolling. School. Let's teach our children how to actually, embrace landscape and nature and see what it is as part of us. We cannot keep this division, and so the more we introduce them to this, the more they'll learn to love it and keep it cool, keep it real. It doesn't have to be this whole spiritual journey. You can do whatever you want. It's a fucking garden. It's your life. It's in front of your house. It's behind. It's the oxygen we breathe. So you can make it as spiritual as you want, but in reality, it can also be for
It's the
every.
feeling of the people working there.
So
important,
we
the way
really
you do
just
it.
wanted to have a good place to be, and then of course it became a school. Now it's a school where people can come and learn. It's a nursery where we grow plants. It's a compost facility for technically all of Canggu, if we could eventually get to that point. For now, we're picking up from everywhere, and we're building together and we're growing together. And it's only been 10 months now, almost 11 months, and it's just been never ending.
So you didn't complete yet a year, yeah?
Not even a year, yeah.
So it's a little bit like I was listening to you and remembering the movie night. So it's like the biggest little farm, yeah? Like these guys were 10 years of all insanity of plants and animals and how all the ecosystem works together. So you when you go with this art and beautiful poetry kind of vision, saying, "Oh, I'm going to work the land," then the land say, "Fuck, come on, this is heavy shit."
It's real. It's real.
It's not, but the challenge of not giving up and seeing it happen, that's the magic, yeah.
I think it is the depth of which we dive. Like, you want to go deep, you have to really get there to understand what it looks like. Because we all like to see from the, take a photo, and then it's enough. To post it, and everybody's happy. You look like you're doing a good job. and then you feel good about yourself, you sleep well, and everybody thinks that's what we do in our life. So, and that's what we do with agriculture or permaculture or regenerative agriculture. Lots of people started just posting about it, and I call it, it's not a nice name, but I call it concept farming or concept permaculture, because it's like you go into a store, it's a concept store. Nobody lives in that store, nobody cooks in that kitchen, and the same goes for all these permaculture concept projects that are just, they look good until you say like, yo, so what, where's the dirt, where's the, because it's very tough, because it's not easy. And why is it not easy? Because since the 60s, we have been destroying our landscape. So bringing it back is not easy. It eventually will come back. It doesn't matter what we do, we could destroy the planet. Eventually it comes back, but we want to see it, right? So are you persistent enough to do it for years and years and years to really see what it means to develop a destroyed landscape into to regenerate it?
It takes time.
It takes time. It takes patience, and it takes failure, and it takes teamwork, but not teamwork between humans, teamwork between animals and trees and fungus and bacteria.
And everything.
It takes so much of this energy that a lot of people just get tired. Like, fuck, I don't have time for this shit. Nobody's paying me for this. It's not easy to make money from waiting around. So that's why it becomes a monetized. So we try to make money by, teaching courses and stuff that cost way too much. And then it's like, that doesn't make sense, because we're teaching people that come from big cities, and to get a piece of paper, it's like, we need to start teaching farmers, because they're the ones that actually put the energy into farming. So that's where my focus of vision has been going for the past 4, 5, 6 years now, towards farmers. And
do you spend time with them? I was thinking to asking you if you, because in Bali there is a lot of farmer. If you go up, more you go up
everywhere,
to the top of the volcano, and more you find this fertile soil, and they are farming everywhere. So when I was thinking to ask you if you went to visit some of these farming, that they do a sustainable way of farming.
There is a few, yeah.
If there is a few, and how is the percentage that, because I really believe that doing it completely pure, like biological, is really tough. I mean, it's enough if you
That's
try.
true. It's very tough.
A small piece in your garden, and you see that you have a lot of animals that they are feeding, or sometimes a deluge arrive, and then in the morning your salad is already
gone. Well, I mean, there's this we believe it's been this the belief system of everybody in the world now that organic is more expensive than conventional. It's just organic. Everybody thinks you buy it, it's more expensive. To grow it, it's more expensive. We don't subsidize organic farming. Organic farming has 0 subsidies from the government.
It starts there.
First. Organic farming has nothing. Conventional farming in Indonesia has 3.3 trillion rupiah a year, every single year. So
to spend in pesticides, chemicals,
and fertilizers.
3.3.
I wonder who gives this contribution for this billion.
3.3 trillion. So we're not talking about, and this is taxpayer money. This is the government taking money to fund the farmers. It's not the farmers spend, it's just so that the chemicals are cheaper for the farmers. So it's subsidized.
I know, because also the owner of the land where I have my house, they get the fertilizer, they get the seeds. Also.
Exactly. So it's perfect world for them. They have this perfect system. So imagine we subsidize 3.3 trillion for regenerative farming. All of a sudden we're talking about a different game. So if we played with 0 and 0, everybody started off with 0, not 0 and 3.3 trillion, then yes, it's true. Organic is expensive. It's very hard to go 100% organic. So, but the reality is this now. It is very hard because they're all subsidized. So we have to do it as an example. We have to try from 0. We have to try from scratch, but we have to try 100%.
No, absolutely, I believe in that.
So when I do see farmers in the mountains that are willing to try, we see, I have to see, do they meet the criteria in the sense, are they really willing? Are we actually going to learn together? Are we going to go far together? Are they young? It's one of the biggest criteria, it's one of the biggest things. Are they young enough to really? Young. They need to be the youth. If not, I wouldn't say it's a short road, but it's just hard to get all these informations and to work together. So,
I would like to just go back again, because I'm going back and forth. I do this exercise. It's my way.
be your guest.
Yeah. I remember having a conversation with you about your experience as a rock band. Because it's interesting to go there, because you are on this amazing, deepness of connecting with nature and understanding the intricacy of the sky and the seasons and then the birds and the animals and the rats and everything and the snakes and everything that compose and the insects. And this is like, as you said, it's like macro, micro, yeah, and you are there. But could you give us, because it's nice to see a parallel of your life being a Bali kid, you are born here, you live in a small gili, which is it's not even an island, yeah?
Yeah,
it's like an atoll style, yeah? And you are living the life, you learn about boats, you come back to the land, you don't go to school, and suddenly you get in love with the land again. And where the rock band story starts, because you want to explore your art performing, you want to connect with people through music, yeah?
I mean, yeah, it was the minute that I quit school, I already loved music. I was playing guitar when I was a kid, but then, a couple of friends, we were 11, we were 10, 11, like talking about making a band. What do you do when you're 11?
Yeah,
you make
do
bands,
bands,
you do stupid shit.
Not stupid, it's good.
Yeah,
I did a band.
I thought it was a dumb thing in the day one, and then day 3 I was like, I'm gonna do this for the rest of my life. I knew that was gonna, we were 5 kids, and we had a friend that was playing the saxophone, and we
So
thought,
you have saxophone
player.
Sax you had for
I was the bassist.
You are the bassist, okay.
And there was a guitarist,
Saxophone, guitar, drum.
and a drummer, and a singer.
So what kind of music?
We would call it progressive alternative metal rock or something like that, with a side. Yeah. So we did that for almost 8 years. We played and played, and the father of the guitarist had this underground shooting range so we could do every type of sound at any time of the day. We'd live in there. It was like the cave, for us.
It was
at that age. We could, we would have full-on concerts down there with, and so that was just. That was our expression of how we wanted to.
The thing is that you went really to Europe even to play, and
then
that experience that you are in London and suddenly
we decided to go
to come back to the land. Yeah?
We were living in Amsterdam for a year and a half, and we all noticed after a year and a half of struggling to try and make music, to try and get a deal. We got the day we were going to sign a 2-year contract. We're sitting at the table, party, super excited. This is the best moment of our life. We're ready to do this. Give us a day. We'll think about exactly, and tomorrow we sign. And we went back to the house, and we were just talking about it. And one of our friends, one of the new guitarists at the time, was like, "Fuck, man, let's just go back to Bali," And we were just giving him so much shit, like, "Shut up, what are you stupid, you crazy?" And
why he was saying,
I don't know. Eventually, we all just sat and realized that we fucking hate living in the city. We had nothing to do with this place. We hate everything that it has to do with our. We don't have. And the guy was Brazilian, one of the dudes that was gonna like connect us to this whole industry. He was my chef. I was working in a kitchen, and he was my chef. And he was like, "Yeah, you guys super cool blues players." So yeah, eventually, we had to go the next day and tell him like,
"We are not going.
We're not gonna do it." Like, what the fuck are we doing? And then we decided to just do a tour around Europe with all our instruments, fucking, just hitchhike around, and play music everywhere in Ibiza and London. And then one of our guys got deported because he was having an issue with his. So we said, like, let's go back to Bali and fuck it.
It's a last dance, and then
we had an amazing last year.
The reason I push this subject is to be sure that when you are in the land, really that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I know music is always part of what I want to do, because that's what's life without music, and I did my rock star life. Let's say we played with biggest Indonesian bands, and for us it was huge, and we played on huge stages, and we had an amazing time, and it felt like rock star for me, rock star enough. I mean, I did that for me. I was happy, and then I noticed that I was just so much more interested in the landscape.
So being in the land is a sure sing for you. That's why I went to the rock band. It was not only to.
I mean,
it pushed some glamour to the story, but it's inequivocal.
You want to know if he decide and commit.
Yes.
It's not like, oh, I'm having like an epiphany. Now I'm going to work in the land. Yeah?
Just for try.
And tomorrow
just
maybe
for
I'm going to fly with a paraglider.
But
he's really into the land.
initially, it was, of course, idealistic. It was an ideology.
It's
We
normal.
want to go and live in a mud house. And I remember I talked to Norm. I was talking to Norm. And I went to Norm and I said, Norm, I want to live in a mud house. I want to make mud houses. I want to live in the land. And he goes, mate, yeah, fucking, just go make a buck, bro. I was like, what the fuck, Norm? You're like my, I aspire to you. What do you mean? It's like, yeah, everybody goes through this phase. You're going to eventually understand that you first need to learn, then you need to make some money to survive, and then you actually have to, do it consistently. And I was like, oh, fuck off, like, don't tell me. I'm 18. I know exactly what I want. And of course, yeah.
He was right.
He was very right.
Norman.
Norman is my, shout out to Norm. He was a super, he knew how to get the information across. But like I said, initially I was just like everybody else, going into the idea of like, yes, I understand the connection I want to have with nature, but who is your teacher is going to be your point of view. So if I go to a permaculture course that costs $2,000, that's what I think landscape is going to be. $2,000 piece of paper that I go home with, And so eventually I noticed that wasn't the case, and I got deeper and deeper. But
so this gentleman and you met, this is your you say guru style?
one of two, yeah.
He really inspired.
Yeah.
He's an inspiration, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, we really...
Because my teacher in Japan, in Japanese acupuncture, he says that you need two things to be effective in your work. One is finding a teacher that inspires you, and then is the work and your commitment to the art you are putting yourself in. So you have both.
I would
have
agree.
Somebody that inspires you.
Yeah.
Or two
And now
people.
many.
Many now.
But before it was just a few guys. Nobody really knew what we were doing in that field.
So Marco.
Go back to sustainable agriculture. And
we still have time.
so when you have to, let's say you have your sustainable agricultural business or place where you do your work, but one of the big problems from what I understand is the find your own market where to sell. I mean, you produce all the things and you are on the top of the mountain. So here in Bali, for example, because there is a market of people that want to buy this kind of product. How do they manage, if you know it? I mean, if you have some example that you can give us, how do they promote what they're doing?
I mean, the reason why I was saying young when I was looking for the farmers is one of the main reasons. To be able to use the new forms of marketing, the new forms of media, the new forms of technology. This is why agriculture here, agriculture, first of all, you have to grow food without destroying your own fucking land. That's first of all. So then you have to be able to show that you're doing that, so people can actually like your story. Like, what are you actually doing? Are you really doing it, or are you just doing it for... We don't need certificates. It's too expensive. Organic certificate is ridiculously expensive. But we show you that we don't... Certificate for us is too you could grow organically. I was explaining this. You can grow organic, certified organic on the top of a mount, on the top of a building. You can grow organic in a city if you really wanted. You could grow organic anywhere, but you cannot grow regenerative on the top of a Shanghai building. You cannot grow regenerative in your little pot. You understand? So organic and regenerative is a whole different... We're talking about two different games. Regenerative regenerates soil, and so this is the market that we're trying to show people. We don't... Organic, yeah, sure, go buy organic. We're trying to save our landscape for future generations. So the marketing is being able to prove it through media, through showing the actual processes, the story behind it, and then you work like a fucking dog. Like, these guys really have to work really hard to get to where they are. And some of the one that I use as the best example is this Sandan farm in near Baturiti, who two young, one guy, the boy, he was working in a bar in Canggu, just one barista, and she was a law student studying law in university. Of course, the pandemic hit. Forget about it. Nothing to do.
Forget about the bar.
Forget about everything. They had land, and we met, and long story short, they really committed, and I said, you need a 3-year commitment. I want it signed, not because I care, I have nothing to, but I'm not going to drive up 2 hours to the mountain every day to have, you know, to play games. And so they were like, no, we're real, we're in it. And now it doesn't matter what they harvest, it's sold, you know, because the minute they know there's going to be harvest, people are going to buy it. So it has to start, because they can.
So you are doing the connection with the in distribution with the local farming?
Initially, I bridged. So I just said, okay, you meet the marketing team. You meet the marketing team. The marketing team is going to make you the whole thing. Yeah, you're going to have to pay for it. Nothing's free. You're a farmer. You have a business. These guys, exactly. They're going to run their own business. A young couple is going to run their own farming business in Bali. They're going to have a company.
And you make sure that you can sell all these products, so they are relaxed in that matter.
I tried to make sure, but I didn't want to. I just gave them a push. Then it's up to them, you know. Then they have to prove it, because again, it's not my business; it's their business.
Okay.
I do a million other things. They have to run their farm, and so yeah, they're learning to be their own marketing executive, like being able to take these decisions. They need to do their own, data collection. Every kilogram that they harvest has to be written.
Note.
Everything that goes wrong, they take note. You know, it's all down to the last. Also, because it has to be replicable. If I go to the next farmer, young family, young whoever.
So I can understand. Okay, you are looking for something that can be
that works.
Not scalable but replicable.
That works.
It's like attached file.
And they say, well, how does it work? And you say, well, I don't know. You do this, and like, well, you don't have any. No, we have the data now. We can show the day it started, how it started, how hard, what are our problems. We have no water in this farm, for example. All rain collected, and how it, and all the steps from the day one. So every other young farmer can now go, I can do that. We can do that. There's plenty of market for that in Bali. You could never feed all the mouths with that if you wanted. So there's enough market, especially when it reopens.
Yeah, of course.
You feel the price is different between?
Of course.
It's more expensive?
For now, it's more expensive. Also because...
And the reason is?
One of them was the fact that conventional is subsidized and organic.
They are not, so they are putting off from their pocket.
100%. But it starts.
Also the other taste.
Sorry?
I've been using pesticide or fungicides.
Exactly. So it's
you preserve the product, but you kill all the parasites.
Exactly.
You kill all the fungi.
But like
and you eat it.
And you eat it, and then you have to figure something out for that. But like in the movie, like we were talking about last week, about the layers of, once you start turning on that engine that has been shut off for fucking 100 years almost, it's an old engine. It takes really time. You have to get to the point where it starts to run and the momentum starts building, and then it's like flying. And the minute that happens, you are playing with nature. You are in one game together. You're not fighting it. You are
just flowing.
You're not killing everything that they throw at you. You realize that it starts to run, and within 1 year, these guys have had such an incredible visibility. Like you can see the carrots and the vegetable. First harvest was like tiny. The second harvest is different. So just within a year. So it's more expensive, but that's because in the beginning we have destroyed our landscape. We're not joking when we say this for almost 60 years, so for almost 100 years. So it's not even a question that it's more expensive.
But the market accepts that price.
At the moment, we're surprisingly a few locals are still buying, but eventually we have to get to the local market. It has to be multiplied.
Probably the project. At the end, the goal is that.
Especially if all of them continue. If there's a movement that continues and they get more efficient as they farm,
and
as the years go by.
I remember regarding this. Can I? Please. Regarding this situation when we were speaking with Lindsay Lovejoy. Mm-hmm. She was saying that if you go to a Western world and you say to the people living in a town, say, go back to the land and work, they were going to say, you're fucking mad. They don't know nothing. But in Bali, this is possible because you have a huge amount of land. It's not overpopulated island. And last time you were here, you gave me more data. You said that there is a lot of water, there's a lot of land. So would you say that Bali is self-sufficient if you really work? It's like gigantic.
I mean, honestly, it would be ridiculous to have people starving in Bali. In fact, Pak Chakra, one of my teachers, used to make jokes that he used to watch television in his little wantilan in his banja when he was a kid. Yeah. Television, like black and white, about people starving in Africa. And he was like, yo, I've never even imagined that could be a possibility. How You look around yourself, you could eat pretty much everything in Bali, especially we're talking about 50, 40 years ago. So
banana tree everywhere.
so technically, there is no way you can really starve if tourism doesn't take all your water.
That was the question next.
Yeah, in this case, we're talking about the situation through the pandemic, right? Because
now we are living a nice moment. It looks like balanced.
But let's say Bali closed down, like zero tourism.
I think it's going to happen again. I think it's very obvious.
Whatever
If
happens.
coming, if people don't put in the equation that tourism should not be the priority, we will have a serious problem next again. And this goes to the question exactly I was saying, is because she told me that 65% of the water during pre-COVID time is spent in tourism, and then you really said even it evaporates, it's not used.
I mean,
it's like insane.
It's wasted. We're talking about hotels. All the tourism industry takes water to just launder their laundry, pools, golf. Like, we're talking about just wasting water for
everywhere.
especially for big hotels that most of the time are even empty. So it's just water for no reason. It's bypassing village, like they take water from the source, bypass villages and take it to, in fact, Tabanan sometimes has no water during the rainy season and end of the dry season, and because all the water goes down to the big hotels, and we're losing groundwater, so there's no more groundwater near the ocean. It all comes from the main, you're getting salt water soon. The further you go near the ocean, you get salt water now. Yeah, in Kuta, every well is salty. And so I was, in the end, if Bali really closed down and there was no tourism and people had to forcefully, live on the land, there would never be a moment where we have not enough water, because most of our water goes through tourism. We would have too much water. We'd have too much food, in that sense, if you did it correctly, of course. Now we bypass also all the water. It doesn't do the hydrological cycle properly. It just rains, pours into the river, goes into the ocean. The hydrological cycle goes through the soil. The
soil is not being used correctly.
It's just,
That's your work with the compost, yeah?
One of them is just restoring healthy landscapes. Water is supposed to go into the ground before it goes into the river. Exactly. Only when it.
Before you talk about now about the water, and before about how to manage all the soil, and I was when I was preparing the question, I was looking some article on internet, and I jumped into this website. They were talking about data collecting, and also what they call agriculture 4.0, something like that.
Huh.
Where the data that you collect, you apply then with some software, and you use it just for example, programming how much water you put on that piece of land, or when you have to use a certain kind of compost in order to manage time and resource.
So like computerized?
Kind of using computer and data, putting together with the homework of the land to optimize the use of water, fertilizer, and the cycle of the nature. But this one, of course, is applied right now. I mean, it grows exponentially, but it's applied on the huge field.
Yep.
So for the mechanic agriculture.
Yep.
So I was thinking about if you probably have the possibility to do something in the field of sustainable.
In the bigger agriculture scene outside of Indonesia, where agriculture is industrial agriculture, in Australia and Europe and America, and big, where they just hectares and hundreds of hectares, where they're starting to try and merge this regenerative agriculture with, like they call it, no-till, so without turning the soil, without chemicals and all this. It's a step, but technology. It's so we're in the era of making things rapid. I come up with a new app, and then you farm, and then you farmer. Since it's never the case, it's never going to be the case. Computers can help us, of course, but we know this whole idea of there's also gardens where you have a box and there's like a little robot that actually plants. It's like a computer. It's doable.
Hydroponic.
The thing is, that system runs on mechanics and petroleum. It's just not, like you can only harvest one thing. I don't know, it might work. I just don't think it's a holistic approach. It's more of like trying to cut trying to find a shortcut that definitely has its consequences. You know, it definitely has its consequences, and just keeping things simple in the end might be the best way. I really do believe. And feeding the world, man. We're throwing away third of our food is thrown away. So feeding the world is a joke. We're not feeding the world. We're trying to feed the world with ridiculous ideas. And if everybody just learned to feed themselves, especially in places where you can, fuck, it's done.
I had a question in the back that I'm like, you think that there is a chance that everybody like you and Gary and all the guys who are Bali kids or not Bali kids, Eco Bali, and all these amazing groups and movements, they are doing a lot of amazing stuff to create something sustainable and honest, not polluting, avoiding pollution, etc. You don't think that these groups should get together at a certain point, not to do a revolution, because I don't believe revolutions have a good result in the end, but try to together to create this kind of position and maybe propose, and I told you this in the podcast of the market, a pioneer kind of project for Bali. Like Bali is a micro economy and it's an island. It could be the most amazing ecotourism island in the world and could be an example due to the amazing source of water and plant and land and the ability of people to connect with the land, because everybody goes back to the land when the COVID starts. It's normal for them. What do you think about this? You think it's utopic? Or?
I think it's at some point inevitable. At some point, somebody's going to say, "Hey, look, I mean, you're doing what I can't do. You're doing and I'm doing what you can't do. Obviously, let's back each other up. Let's work together." It's just that it's obviously has to come with a partnership of the local community. It's really the only, So
makes sense.
We all want to do our part, but if the local
they don't want
if the local government doesn't actually give a shit, or they don't really care in that specific example, you're going to have a very hard resistance. You're going to be not efficient. And so I think that it's inevitable. We're going to get together eventually. We're all going to make some kind of idea of program that we can make things smarter for everybody without destroying our future, quite literally.
You think it's going to happen in your life, or you are going to have like white beer like me when it happens?
I've been planning it before the farmers, about a collective, about local farmers collective, and I just needed one example. And with these guys that I'm using,
it's happening.
They are local.
They're local. Yeah. They're young,
and they are happy with the result. Yeah.
They are. I think they have. I don't know. They've changed their whole life around it. They are making me like
happy.
Catch up. When I go there, I'm like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "We're doing this." I'm like, "Yo, what the fuck?" Okay, so I need to start catching up, because within a year of them working so hard, they have completely shattered everything I was thinking of, and we're going to the next
level,
better ideas. And so now all we have to do is make a powerful group of these farmers, so that they cannot just be put to the side every time some new laws come, or
make everything fashionable.
My dear friend, do the last question before I close this. Come on. A nice one.
No, I finished.
You finished? So,
no, there is
I do that a very quick question. What do you think, and I know this is not related with your agriculture, and because when you were sitting down here doing the market podcast, and I was, it's a Bali kid, and you were like, this, and I was like, this guy has the same awareness and vision that Gary had with the plastic. What do you think about his work and where you guys can connect? You told me about a project that you can connect with them, and they are being very effective with their work.
I think Gary, the first time he started his movement, I think he was
14 or something.
14 or 15.
Can you imagine that?
I was
10 years ago.
14.
I was with my band playing at his event. At his for Bali event. It was the fun, and now that I look back, I remember, it was a Gary organizing a cleanup, this whole thing, and we were playing at his event, and so we haven't gone that far. We meet right back again. Now we're neighbors,
Yeah.
in our projects, he's like not even 500 kilometers away from where we are. So I know his perseverance has been like, you know, perfect. He's been on fire for the past 10 years. He's been trying to get this thing down.
Long, working 10 years on project.
So you are going to ask him, you told me about the compost, there's a project.
I think it would make only but sense to be focusing on these two projects, on these projects as an organism, because we both do the same, two spectrums of the same thing.
You can complement yourselves.
Yeah, we're working more with the organic matter. He's working more with the toxic stuff.
Yes.
And one cannot work without the other one. So like we cannot have organic matter if the toxic doesn't get removed, and they cannot do the same if it's all mattered in organic. So we need to eventually combine some kind of, you know, project and make.
Hello, Gary. I'm watching you. And Sam, look.
No, I have so much, you know, respect for the projects they do, and I really hope that very soon we can, you know, propose a proper deal and be like,
That
guys,
would be amazing.
let's make it happen. I don't see why not.
So I would like to propose the next podcast in your place, and we do it direct from there, if you're okay with that, so people can see in the background all the stuff going on.
That would be an honor.
Huh? What you think? It's a good
Fantastic.
idea. So we do an outside kind of program.
That'd be
So
great.
we are going. You want to close? You close the program, man. Come on.
Well, we're gonna say thank you very much for this talk, Juka.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to our
Thank you
friend
very much.
here,
Your name?
Jane, Manu, and Simonetta,
Amazing.
and
Manu.
Anna.
Manu, the big man. I need to go to your restaurant. What's the name of your restaurant? Huh? That poor teacher, don't forget. Simonetta. Thank you, Tegar. Thank you, Ana Luisa. You are amazing. Without you, we could not do it. Thank you.